we've been able to make great strides in catching up and closing these gaps, but it's going to take another order of magnitude. From my view, given how things are trending, by the end of this decade, we have the potential to exceed China's capabilities.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 419. Are American drone manufacturers on the rise? For that question, we head to Salt Lake City to speak with George Matus, CEO and founder of Teal Drones, a trailblazing U.S. company at the forefront of innovative drone technology for both commercial and military applications. With advancements in air control, data processing, and mapping technologies, Teal is revolutionizing operations for the military, public safety, and various commercial sectors. Its flagship Teal 2 drone is a model of security, intelligence, and high performance that meets the stringent standards of the U.S. defense industry. George started Teal Drones in 2014 when he was only a sophomore in high school. By 2023, he was named CTO of Red Cat Holdings, the parent company of Teal Drones. Red Cat is an end-to-end drone solutions company based in the United States that is accelerating the future of aerial robotics to transform the way we live and work. In episode 412, I interviewed Michael Robbins, Chief Advocacy Officer at the Association of Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International, or AUVSI. In that podcast, we explored the importance of U.S. competitiveness in the drone industry. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, George builds on this theme by highlighting the ascent of Teal Drones as a manufacturing leader and sheds light on the expanding opportunities for American drone companies in the global market. But before we hear from George, I want to stress that your support is the heartbeat of my podcast. Every episode is crafted with you in mind, and your generous donations ensure I can keep delivering the content you love. Whether it's the price of a coffee or a more substantial contribution, every bit helps to defray the cost of production. Donate today and be a vital part of the podcast's continued journey to greatness. And for a limited time, donate $100 or more and receive an official Drone Radio Show coffee mug. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And if you can, please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and leave a nice review and rating on iTunes. It really helps improve the podcast ranking among the many thousands of active podcasts today. And by the way, if you have a great story on the use of drones that you'd like to share in a podcast, contact me at randy@droneradioshow.com. So let's uncover the dynamics propelling American drone manufacturers to new heights in this global market with George Matus of Teal Drones and Red Cat Holdings. Let's pick up the interview where I asked George to introduce himself.
My name is George Matus. I am the founder of Teal, and over the last 2 years after getting acquired by Red Cat Holdings, I'm now the CTO of Red Cat as well.
George, tell us about Teal Drones. What does the company do?
For sure. And by the way, thanks for having me on, Randy. It's great to be back and excited for this conversation. So Teal Drones was started back in the year 2015. Red Cat was started shortly thereafter. Originally, if you remember, Teal was focused on the consumer space. And I had started the company basically out of my passion for flying, for building things and finding ways to make money. So I got the company started in high school. I was fortunate enough to find many people much smarter than me to support me and help get this company started. And very quickly was thrown into the fire, not just in terms of trying to build a company, but building a company in the context of the drone industry, which, as we all know, is a very unique industry and has gone through a lot of interesting inflection points. I think 2015 was kind of the peak of the the Gartner hype cycle for the drone industry. Lots of capital was pouring in. Everybody was excited about drones. People thought they'd be everywhere by the year 2020, which ultimately didn't happen. By the year 2017, 2018, we kind of reached our trough of disillusionment. Many US companies started going out of business and basically were just getting crushed by DJI. But since then, we've been on our so-called path to enlightenment, I think. And the timing for the industry is actually really, really good today. So, Teal since 2018 has been a fully defense first focused company. Our mission is basically, using drones to allow America and its allies to deter aggression or win if it's forced to fight. We are big believers that drones are the future of war, and America really needs to accelerate its capabilities in this industry and technology. Around 2021, I had started talking with Red Cat, who had a very similar vision of the future to Teal. I had gotten to know their team, and it's just a fantastic group of people. And since they're a public company, I thought it would make sense to join forces, be able to better capitalize the business and fund our future efforts. So long story short, today we're based here in Salt Lake City, almost 100 team members producing our current flagship model called the Teal 2, which we can talk about a little bit more later. And very excited to see where we can take things over the coming years.
What is the core competency of Red Cat Holdings? What do they do, and what do they bring to Teal Drones?
Red Cat is a holding company, basically with the vision of combining a number of technologies, companies, and groups of people to build full stack offerings for this industry. I think ultimately it is possible for America to catch up to the capabilities of someone like DJI, but I don't think it's going to happen just with a single company. And Red Cat's idea was to be able to go after that with the idea of combining companies that specialize in specific areas of the industry. So Teal was actually Red Cat's fourth acquisition, and definitely not the last.
What makes Teal Drones stand out from other drone companies?
I think we have a lot of interesting things going for us. The first is that we are trying to be a very open platform. We try to partner with a lot of different companies. We try to be very interoperable in order to be able to build an ecosystem of capability around our technology. We realize that we can't do everything on our own, and so we try to be as open as possible. Over the last 5 years since we've been focused on defense, we've now gone through 2 generations of products. We've built a factory, and simply, I think by being able to survive long enough to see, this really positive time in the industry, I think Teal is uniquely positioned to deliver on a lot of these big demand signals that we're seeing both in America and around the world, and then be able to continue investing into its technology and continue improving it. There's been so much consolidation in the industry, and from our standpoint, we are just one of a handful of OEMs that can produce this category of drone domestically. So I think the company's positioned well. I think our technology is positioned well and is compelling. And then, of course, with the Teal 2, beyond just being an open platform, we designed that to be very military grade. We designed it to, quote unquote, dominate the night. It's got a very high resolution payload. It's got some stealth features, given that most of our customers operate during nighttime. And the drone is also very modular, meaning that it can be replaced or repaired with parts being replaced out in the field instead of the drone having to be sent back to the factory for repairs. So all of that combined, we're pretty positive about the direction of the company and where we're headed.
Can you elaborate on the Teal 2 drone? Last time we spoke, the drone was just hitting the market. Can you give us an overview of the drone's evolution and where it is today?
The quick background to where we are today in terms of product is the Short Range Reconnaissance Program of Record, which started back in the year 2018 with the idea of building next generation small drones that can eventually go into the hands of every platoon in the Army for situational awareness over the next terrain feature. So basically something that soldiers could use to see what's over the next hill or around the next corner, which is obviously a very powerful capability. We became part of that program back then in 2018, 2019. We competed with a few other vendors to develop a next generation system. And what came out of that for Teal was our first generation defense product called Golden Eagle. Golden Eagle was our first, defense focused but dual use product. And that's where we began scaling, building out our factory, and then building on that foundation, introduced the Teal 2 last year in 2023. So that's the next generation of the Golden Eagle. It had a lot of enhancements to the payload, to ruggedness, and ability to operate in different environments, and a bunch of software updates and improvements as well. So, in total, the Teal 2 is a very defense-first product. It was designed for the short-range reconnaissance program of record, but is also the same product that we are selling and deploying to other customers, both for defense use cases and other things like land and fire management, public safety, even wildlife conservation. And between its modularity, high resolution EO/IR payload, radiometric capability, ruggedness, as you say, this thing was designed to operate in any environment and stand up to a bunch of abuse. All those things combined make it, I think, a really compelling offering for those kinds of use cases, and begins to close the gap between the domestic industrial bases and where China is today.
I imagine search and rescue would be another strong use case.
Yeah, exactly. And something we've started talking about publicly is the ability to fly multiple Teals at once through the same controller. So we're starting to enable multi-vehicle capabilities, and that obviously can serve many different use cases, but search and rescue is definitely a really cool one where that can apply and be really helpful.
For use by troops in the field, how quickly and easy can the drone be deployed?
I think there's two aspects to that. One is training, and two is just the raw capability of the system. So the product was designed to require minimal training. With all the trainings that we've done, we can confidently say we can get someone up to speed on operating the system safely and confidently within just a couple of hours. And then, when they do go out on their missions, we've designed the system to be able to be deployed in less than 60 seconds. So you can pull it out of its tactile case, unfold the arms, and launch very quickly, which obviously is helpful, but also a requirement for a lot of the programs that we've been targeting and competing for.
What have the last 6 years taught you about building a competitive drone manufacturing company?
That is a wonderful question, Randy. And, something I like to start off with is I've made many mistakes, but have been fortunate to have surrounded myself with some really smart people, believe in me, believe in the vision, believe in the company. We've been able to survive long enough to see some of these opportunities through. I think what's important to note is that trying to be a drone manufacturer is obviously very difficult, especially if you're trying to build every, or at least most of the parts of your technology stack on your own. It really is kind of a deep tech company where you need so many things to go right, and you need to spend so much time and money just to get to the point where you can start to see some success. I think we've been able to give ourselves the oxygen needed to survive long enough to get our product to where it needs to be, to get our team where it needs to be, and ultimately for the market and for demand to get where it needs to be, to now start seeing a lot more success. So I think a lot of it is just persistence, staying alive, and putting all the effort you have into just making the thing work.
Can you give us your take on federal policy on drone manufacturers, particularly US versus China?
I think to zoom out a little bit, this all started essentially with the SRR program a few years ago, where the US government started realizing there were three main areas of risk in using drones manufactured by covered foreign entities like China. And that's data flow, dual use, and dependency. The data flow one is obvious. That one has a lot of conversation online, but essentially the risk around sensitive data being transmitted or stored back in China. Number two is dual use. Basically, if the government is procuring drones for government use cases from China, we're funding China's capabilities and for them to continue improving their capabilities. And then dependency, of course, is if we're dependent on Chinese systems for a lot of sensitive operations, if stuff hits the fan with China and we enter some conflict, we get caught with our pants down, and we're in a really tough position, especially given how impactful and important this technology is now proving to be in conflict and in war. And so, the government has started to take a lot of actions to try to correct that. One was the SRR program, which Teal is a part of. Another recent one was the American Security Drone Act, which certainly is going to increase investment into the domestic industrial base. And we think something that's going to be very positive to help America ultimately catch up with China. So, Red Cat and Teal are proponents of all of those efforts. We think these efforts are going to help mitigate those three main areas of risk. And, we think with enough time and money, catching up to China is possible. American innovation is real. We are able to do amazing things as an industry here. And I'm personally really optimistic that we can make it happen.
In terms of innovation, how do we stack up with foreign drone manufacturers?
I think we have been catching up quickly. I think there's still some delta. I think, the delta begins to narrow pretty quickly and not linearly. So what I mean by that is with a certain amount of time and money, we've been able to make great strides in catching up and closing these gaps, but it's going to take another order of magnitude of resources to fully close the gap and just that last, let's say 5 to 10% that makes the product really polished and extremely competitive. None of it is against or goes against the laws of physics and really is just a function of time and money. And I think from my view, given how things are trending, by the end of this decade, we have the potential to exceed China's capabilities in many respects.
Are Teal drones used in the commercial sector?
Teal right now is, for the most part, focused on defense. We think that's a massive need right now and something that deserves the majority or even all of our focus. So the Teal 2 is a dual-use product and can be used in other use cases. There are a few that I was mentioning, like fire and land management. For example, we've got CAL FIRE deploying our systems around the state of California for that use case. We've got public safety agencies. We've got some conservancies out in Africa using the system for wildlife conservation. But most of our focus is on defense, and we think that's just such a critical area over the next couple of years based on what we've seen happening in Ukraine and Israel.
Do your drones have any built-in countermeasures to protect the drone? Say if a hostile radar is locking onto it?
There's a lot of work that we're doing on being resistant to jamming and interference and being able to fly in denied environments, both in terms of data link and GPS. We have not been doing anything in counter UAS. I think there's some great companies doing some interesting things there. And for now, we're just focused on the UAS capability itself.
And you mentioned you built a factory. Where is the factory located?
So I am sitting in the factory right now. We are in Salt Lake City. And I think what's really unique about Teal is that we have everybody under one roof. So our entire R&D team is just a few feet away from our production line and factory team. And so they're able to collaborate very closely to accelerate our ability to scale, with high reliability, with quality, and then be able to roll in improvements and new product features and fully new products over time.
Do you guys build the drones one at a time, or is there some sort of assembly line operation?
We've invested, off the top of my head, I think on the order of $10 to $20 million just into our manufacturing floor and equipment and process. So there are some portions that are just pure labor and being assembled by hand, but we have a lot of test fixtures, manufacturing equipment, and automation systems that help us scale production and be able to do it again at those really high quality and yield numbers that we need just in order to be successful.
What's the composition of your workforce?
Right now, Teal's about 50% R&D and 50% manufacturing. The majority of our engineers, sit on the R&D side. We do have manufacturing engineers, but the majority of the manufacturing team are technicians and operators that are able to run the line and join Teal without having much prior experience, which gives them a really good career path and helps them get started in life.
Did the Salt Lake City area have a readily available qualified workforce, or did you find a need to recruit from outside of the region?
On the manufacturing side, we've got just a constant inflow of interest from candidates that want to come work at Teal, people that have a little bit of drone experience, a lot of people that have no drone experience, even no manufacturing experience, but they just want to be part of a company like this and start building a career path. So we love giving those folks the opportunity. And there's been a huge amount of talent here in Salt Lake that we've been able to tap into for that. On the engineering side, there is also a lot of talent, but obviously highly specialized drone engineers across hardware and software are harder to find. So those do take a little bit longer. And we do recruit from out of state as well to bring folks here into Salt Lake.
What's the plan for staying competitive and further growing Teal Drones?
So right now, I think the business is capitalized well. We have the capital we need to execute, to scale our manufacturing, to meet a lot of the demand that we're now seeing in America and by those allied countries. And we're not going to stop there. We are investing a lot of capital into R&D, into next generation capabilities, both for the Teal 2 and beyond. And I think the way to be successful in this industry is to have an extreme amount of focus on your product and continue making it as compelling as it can be, and then just surviving long enough to see that through. So for better or worse, I think I've gotten pretty good at surviving, and I'm sure there are more mistakes that are going to be made, but I think the company's positioned really well. I think we've got an amazing team, an amazing start, to our technology. And in many ways, I think it's still day one for drones. And I'm very bullish, very optimistic about the next several years.
George, is there anything that we missed that we should talk about?
Yeah, I have a couple quick things to say. I think the first is that we are growing, we are hiring. So if you're interested, whether or not we've got positions that might fit you on our website or not, feel free to reach out to us or to me directly, and would love to get in touch. And then beyond that, I think in broader terms, this industry has been uniquely difficult for many years, both to start a company or to work in a drone company, given that so many have not been able to succeed. But I think today, the timing is so good for our industry. And I think that it's a great time to join it, to join a drone company, to start a drone company. There's just going to be so much ahead of us that doesn't yet exist.
And for my final question, George, what message would you like to leave regarding the future of the drone industry?
Again, I think it's been a really difficult and in many ways crappy industry to find success in, but we've gone through so many trials and tribulations. And today people around the world are seeing just how important drones can be for so many different things. We believe that they're going to be fundamental to improving work and life, to contributing to the defense of America and its allies. And again, I think it's really day one for drones with a very, very exciting future.
That's it for episode 419 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from George Matus of Teal Drones and Red Cat Holdings. I want to thank George for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Teal Drones or want to connect with George, check out the webpage at tealdrones.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, then please subscribe and share. Write a glowing review on iTunes. And if you're able, donate to keep the podcast going. Go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.